I now recognize Ms. Lesko of Arizona for her 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, all of the three of you, for being here today. Obviously, we're spending billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars on this project, and so I think it's very important that we get this right so we don't have the waste and fraud. I think, Mr. Ford, you thought the speed that we're doing this at, we might lose 20% of the funding, which is very, troubling, obviously. Mr. Van, the American Rescue Plan authorized $10 billion for the Capital Projects Fund, which provides money to states, territories, and tribal governments to fund critical capital projects that enable work, education, and health monitoring in response to the public health emergency. Does the Department of Treasury have the expertise and capability to effectively administer this program, given that they do not traditionally oversee broadband funding?
Well, thank you for that question. We haven't looked specifically at that particular program, and so it's a little hard for me to comment on whether they have the expertise, but I will mention that they are participating now with other agencies in ongoing coordination meetings so that they understand exactly what NTIA and FCC and other and agriculture are doing. And so that's an encouraging sign that Treasury is now part of that MOU between those agencies.
Thank you. And in a similar question, Mr. Ford, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program is a $42.45 billion NTIA program established by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act to deploy broadband infrastructure. In your opinion, is the NTIA properly equipped to direct and oversee this large amount of funding?
No.
Thank you. My next question is also for Mr. Ford. Broadband providers are subject to significant permitting delays at the local and federal levels. With funding going out the door for multiple different broadband programs, all having various timelines and regulations, do you agree that a uniform permitting application would help solve this problem?
I mean, it seems like it would, at a general level. Implementation might prove tricky, but yeah, ease that process would make it better. It's part of the hurry problem, right? Hurry up and do something, and then wham, 8 months later, you get to submit a letter to ask permission to cross a street. So that's all part and parcel of it. But if that could be simplified, it would most surely help.
So related to that, do you think that permitting reform is something that Congress should do this year?
I think it would be reasonable to do that, and maybe even pole attachments and rights-of-way stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Van, would it be reasonable and effective to have a single agency that administers all broadband programs?
So just to go back to the number of programs we have, I would just mention that many of them do not have broadband as their main purpose. Mm-hmm. And so right now we have 4 agencies that really have the bulk of the funding: FCC, mm-hmm. NTIA, Department of Agriculture, and Treasury. And so for many of those programs, they have other purposes: economic development, community development, whatever it may be. Whether one agency would be most appropriate, it's hard to say. In some ways I want to say yes, in the sense that, you have it all in one. You have one agency who's focused on this, but the FCC is not an administrative branch agency. It's an independent commission. They function off of the Universal Service Fund that's collected through taxes on our phone bills. Whereas NTIA, being an executive branch agency, has a different function, right? So they're looking at, the strategic plan and goals of the Department of Commerce. So those things are different. Would it be better if it had one agency to do that? Perhaps, but communications issues are spread across a number of agencies.
Thank you for your answer. Yeah, it just seems to me common sense that if you have all these different programs and a whole bunch of different agencies trying to do have the same goal, that you're going to inevitably overspend money. And we're talking about U.S. taxpayer dollars. And so we all have a goal, but we don't want to waste taxpayer dollars. And with that, I yield back.